Hey, it's Friday. Let's do some form checks. Hey guys, welcome back to Form Check Friday. Thank you for joining me. We have a ton of form checks today. Some great questions. It was a little dicey there. I opened up the submission thread on Wednesday, didn't get any submissions by Thursday, and then you guys came through and we've got a ton today. So we also potentially have a fitness celebrity form check to do. We'll see if we have enough time. My priority is always getting through your form checks, but if we have a little bit of time at the end, I've got someone we can rip apart. So, as you guys know, I haven't seen any of these videos. I did look at some of the Q&A questions beforehand just to make sure that I had everything I needed to answer the questions quickly. So I did a little work behind the scenes for one question. You guys are going to want to stay tuned for that one because I think it's useful. I think a lot of guys have this question. So let's get into your form checks and see if we can learn together. All right, so the first one, TJ. Guess I'll go first. Thank you. New to the community, welcome. TJ, looking for some pointers on my conventional deadlift. I feel like I'm still tinkering with my stance width, both feet and grip. Also feel my wedging could be better. Wedging, okay, we'll talk about that. But the more I drop my hips to increase that wedging feeling, the more I feel like I'm squatting the weight up. All right, good. Well, we'll dive into that. Background, linear progression for 16 weeks, followed by a 3-day Texas method variation for 16 weeks with a deload. And now I'm using the 4-day Texas method with a few deloads and I'm nearing the end of this cycle. 385 for the squat, 385 for the deadlift, 335 for the squat, bench is 235. Okay, decent numbers. Let's get into it and see what we're dealing with form-wise on this deadlift. Oh, we got Clint in the background. All right, Clint's taking a nap. We'll see how long it takes. We're 3 minutes in. We'll see how long it takes for him to come bug me with his toy. He only has so much patience. Okay, TJ. So right off the bat, my brother, we need to get weightlifting shoes. You're way too far into this process to not have weightlifting shoes. So I did a rant on weightlifting shoes last time. They increase your stability. They lock your foot into the shoe so you can't roll out on the sides. But most importantly, we're talking about force transfer. You're making a significant effort to generate force against the floor, and you want as much force as possible to travel through your feet, up your legs, up your back, down your arms to the bar. And you got big shock absorbers there. So imagine trying to do a deadlift on a mattress, right? As you push, that mattress is going to absorb a lot of the force that you're working so hard to generate. So we don't want to do that. That's why weightlifting shoes have a very solid sole. It's either wood, incredibly dense rubber, or molded plastic. But the idea is you want all that force to go to the bar, nothing to get absorbed in that squishy heel. You've got giant mattresses on your feet, man. And so get a pair of weightlifting shoes. It's like the first thing you need to buy. You already have a belt. You should have gotten shoes first. And they make a huge difference. So you can spend $50, you can spend $300. It doesn't matter. You won't know the difference. Just get a pair from Nike, Reebok, Adidas. Adidas always has sales on their powerlift models and their Addy Powers. Both of those are great. You need them. So rant over, but get some weightlifting shoes. All right, so let's take a look at this technique and see what we're dealing with. We got loud music or background noise. Okay, so I'm gonna watch a couple of these, just get a feel for the reps and see what we're working with here. All right, decent pull. The knees are a little soft at the top, so you're not locking out your knees. So if we put you in a powerlifting meet, you would get flagged for that. The hips and the knees have to be fully extended at the top, right? And your knees are a little bit soft there. Minor detail. Stance width looks good. So you usually want about 6 to 8 inches between the heels. Let's see what else we can find. So you can see even in your setup, right? You can see the instability. That didn't take long. All right. You can see the instability. You're trying to find balance and you're rocking around a lot on those shoes. Weightlifting shoes make you feel like you're bolted to the platform. And so you're going to spend less time. The more time you spend fidgeting in your deadlift trying to get ready for that first rep, the more time you're giving yourself to get psyched out. So once you put your hands on the bar, you want to set your back, like take a breath, set your back, pause, and go. You don't want to be fidgeting down there because you're going to get psyched out. The pull itself is pretty good. Yeah, it looks like you're... So if you notice on that last rep right here, let me see if I can pause it in time. So if you watch, I think this is the rep. If not, I'll go back. But if you watch how you put this down, you'll see that your knees bend and the bar slides way forward of the midfoot on the way down. So yeah, it's very, I mean, you're moving pretty quickly, but basically you're unlocking your knees first when you set the bar down. And the way you want to set the bar down is keep your knees as straight as you can and then unlock the hips first and stick your butt back. And then once the bar slides down your thighs past your knee, then you bend the knees and that'll put the bar right back over the middle of your foot. If you unlock your hips, let me see if I can catch it. This is tricky. So if you unlock your knees first, I don't think that was the rep. Maybe it was. Let's see one more. So if you unlock your knees first, this is kind of I don't know if I caught the right one, but you'll get the idea. We get this ramp here, right? And so the bar definitely is going to slide off those thighs and it's going to end up a few inches in front of the middle of your foot, which is okay. It just gives you more to do. Yeah, so if we notice where that bar landed, it's way out in front of the middle of your foot here. Okay? So all that means is you're going to have to spend more time getting your hips back up and rolling it over the middle of your foot. So if you think about off the ground, knees extend, then hips extend in that order. So you push with the leg, you extend the knees and they pull back. And then once you clear the knees, you extend the hips. And if you do knees, hips, the bar moves in a straight line. If you open up your hips first, the bar will travel around your knees, right? It'll go out and back. So knees extend, then hips extend. The way down is the opposite. Hips flex, then knees flex. If you do it in that order, it'll go right back over the middle of your foot, supposedly. All right, so I think you had questions about finding I don't know exactly what you mean by wedging. Maybe it means setting your back. I'm not really sure. That's not a term that we use very often. But let's take a look at the setup. So yeah, you'll notice that but see, the thing is, you're dropping your hips, but you're not really moving the bar forward. Right? So looks like you're finding the right spot to pull it. So normally we don't want you to see that one. You didn't. Okay. So let me see here. We want controlled aggression in all of the lifts that we do. So yes, get psyched up, take it seriously, get your adrenaline pumping, but don't let your psych mess with your form and rush you from one rep to the next and compromise your technique by getting so amped up that you're just not really paying attention to your technique because you're just like revved up to do the set. So as you go through these reps, you're not taking much time to reestablish that start position, which is probably why you said you're having issues figuring out where your hip height is and all that, and whether your hips are too low and stuff like that. On that last rep that we just watched, I mean, you started pulling the bar off the ground before you rolled it back over the middle of your foot, right? So let's see. let's see, you set it down and then like, you're just, yeah, you're still not, the bar's in front of the middle of your foot. You're not really ready to go. You're not stable and solid. And then just initiating the pull methodically. Like we want every rep of every exercise to be identical. So that means you have to take time between each rep to reset that start position. And you're quite fired up here, which is good, but you're letting it rush you through that setup. And if the start position is wrong, I say this every week, if the start position's wrong, the rep's wrong, okay? So here's how you need to approach this. You need to slow it down a little bit in between reps. Save your juice, save that fire for when you actually initiate the pull, okay? So you're gonna set the bar down and like that whole thing with the knees super extended like that, and then you slam the knees forward and then just go. There's too much motion, there's too many variables happening in that situation. So here's what I want you to do. We'll go back to the beginning and I'll walk you through what I want to see. So first of all, I want to see weightlifting shoes, but I already told you about that. So you pull the first rep, right? You finally find the position. You're going to set it down. Now, from here, okay, the first thing that you're going to do is get your butt back up in the air, right? So when you follow the correct 5-step setup procedure, and if you need a reminder, go watch that video on how to deadlift on the Starting Strength YouTube channel. The steps are reach down and grab the bar. Now you're already holding the bar because you've already done a rep. Okay. Then with your legs as straight as possible, you're going to reach down and grab it. Don't bend the knees. Then you drop your shins to the bar, right? Just enough to touch. And this is the first rep of the set, right? And that shows you where your hips need to be. That shows you how high your hips need to be. Okay. You need to remember that height. You need to remember how high they are because you're going to have to remind yourself of that correct height for reps 2 through 5. All right. Then once the shins are touching the bar, you take a big breath, squeeze your chest up, drag the bar up your legs. Now we're getting into the rest of the set. So we don't have to do every step because you're not standing up and reaching down and grabbing the bar every time. It's a set of 5. So from this position, first thing you do is once that bar hits the ground, before you do anything else, is you shove your ass back up in the air. Push it back up until you feel it bite behind the hamstrings here, until you feel that hamstring grab behind your knees. You feel the tension. That's where your hips go. So you just push your butt back up in the air until you feel that tension. And it might only be an inch or two, right? Then, bar's still in front of the middle of your foot, but the hips are high. Then, with the hips in the correct place, you roll the bar back over the middle of your foot. Okay? Now you got the bar in the right place and the hips at the right height. So all you have to do from there, now you're ready, right? Now you're ready to initiate the pull. So you're going to take a breath, squeeze your chest up, a little bit of pause to make sure you're as arched as you can possibly be, and then you're just going to push the floor away. And then when you set it back down, you're going to take time to get yourself back in that position. Hips back up, bar back over the middle of the foot. Okay? Make sure you're balanced over the middle of your foot, which is hard to do or hard to tell with those rubbery running shoes on, but when you get real weightlifting shoes, it'll be easy to tell where the pressure is on your foot. Roll the bar. You've already got the bar back over the middle of your foot. Your hips are at the right height. Squeeze your chest up, drag it up your legs. Okay? So one more time. Set the bar down. Get your hips back up in the air. Roll the bar back over the middle of the foot. Make sure your weight is balanced over the middle of your foot. Even pressure across the surface of your foot. Good. All those things are correct. Bar over the foot, hips at the right height, weight balanced across the surface of the foot. Take your breath, squeeze your chest up, pause for just a beat, and then go. Okay? And just get into, just ingrain that pattern into your head. Because right now, this is sort of a frantic deadlift. Because you're amped up and it's getting sloppy. And because it's sloppy, your bar path is going all over the place. It's not as efficient as it could be. Okay? So that was kind of a long form check, but we had some things to talk about. Your back position, your ability to hold your low back flat, your head position, all of this is solid. Lock those knees out. Make sure that at the top of the rep, your knees are fully locked because like I said, I think they're soft right now. So this jazz right here, make sure you fully lock those out. But other than that, you're good. You're just setting the bar down. Oops. You're setting the bar down in front of the middle of your foot and then kind of rapidly going into the next rep, and it's just a little sloppy. So make it more methodical, slow it down, take your time in between reps, and I think you got it, man. These are good. So fix that stuff, post up another one. I'd love to see your squat, so maybe next week post up your squat. We'll see if we can pick that one apart. Thank you, welcome, and we'll see you soon, man. Okay, let's move on. Back with a follow-up. The grip modification definitely helped. Still losing thoracic extension a bit coming out of the bottom later in the set. Do I need to cue the shoulder blades together when driving up? This was a day my allergies had issues. Okay. But trained as much as possible. Good. I was lightheaded after this set, so I concluded the leg training day. Okay. So 285. Let's take a look. Whoa. Okay. Here we go. All right. Upper body looks perfect. Okay. Decent hip drive on that one. I mean, these look pretty good. I think they looked pretty good last time. Head is perfect. You're not flicking your chin around. This is going to be a boring form check, guys. Let's see. Grip modification, losing thoracic extension a bit coming out of the bottom later in the set. Okay, let's see if we can see that. We'll fast forward a little bit here. Okay. Depth is solid. Hip drive looks pretty good. That one might have been a little high, maybe. I don't even feel like going back. Okay, let's see if that bar starts rolling around. Yeah, I mean, you can see the plates kind of spinning forward, but this is the last rep of the set and you're tired. So if it rolls up a little bit on your final grindy rep, I'm not really that worried about it. Let's see if you set it. Yeah, I mean, these look pretty good. I'm gonna pause it, see if I can catch your depth. Can I like scrub a little? No, it's not gonna let me do that. I wouldn't worry too much about the upper back. I mean, if you're doing a great job holding it. For some guys, it depending on how your upper back is built and your posture, some guys have a real hard time, even with their chest up, it still kind of rolls a little bit. I wouldn't worry about that at all. These are very good. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to mention here, because I mean, these look great. I don't have a lot to fix, which is, we'll move on to the next person. Yeah, this is a pretty solid squat, man. you might be getting on your toes a tiny bit. Like, I think, no, that was a great rep. You know where the bottom is. I'm wondering about your depth, but honestly, like, you're hitting it. So I think these are great. Let me make sure that you didn't have any. And this is a shitty workout, as you said. So given that you're having a bad day and your squats look like that, I'm not worried about it at all. Cueing the shoulder blades together when driving up, sometimes that helps. Thinking about the same thing you do on a bench press where you pull your scapula back, or trying to pinch the elbows together behind you and arch the back can help a little bit. In your case, just kind of based on the way you look, I don't know that you're ever gonna have that perfect where the bar never moves at all. Now, here's something I will tell you about, since maybe I can give you some advice. With your grip, with this thumbs on top grip that you're using, totally fine. However, if you watch your hands, like if we watch your right hand, your right wrist, you see it kind of flexing and extending a little bit. It's subtle. This can ultimately lead to tendonitis. So one of the downsides to the thumbs on top grip, with the thumbs on top of the bar, is that it's very common to trigger tendonitis because the bar rolls back a little bit and then it rolls forward a little bit. So as you go down, you sort of relax the hand back or the wrist back. And then as you come up, you roll it forward. That is happening as we can see those plates spinning. Over time, that can really irritate your biceps tendon and you can start to get tendonitis. So I'm sure you may have had it before. If not, you've heard about it. It feels like a giant aching in your wrist. It always flares up during the squat and then it carries over to the bench press. I have a whole video on tendonitis on my YouTube channel. But this grip in particular can, in some cases, lead to that tendonitis. So if you start to feel that your elbows are getting sore during and after your squat workout, immediately switch to a thumbs around grip. So you just wrap your thumb around the bar. In that position, don't try and keep the wrists straight. You won't be able to. They will be bent a little bit. It's usually pretty uncomfortable for 3 workouts and then people get the hang of it. I squat with my thumbs around. Anytime a client mentions that their wrists or that they're starting to feel some tendonitis, we just immediately switch to the thumbs around grip. And what that does is it eliminates this tendency to roll the wrist back and forth because it's sort of already bent and the bar and the weight of the bar, you put more weight of the bar in the wrist, which is why we don't like to use it because you want to support all that weight on your back, ideally. But I'd rather support a little bit of weight in my wrist and not have tendonitis because when the tendonitis gets bad, like you can't train. I mean, it hurts to train. So by letting the wrists bend and taking a little bit more of the weight of the bar in the hands, it prevents the ease with which you can roll your arm back. And that's just pissing off this tendon. Like, you've got hundreds of pounds and over time you're just flexing and extending this biceps tendon under load and it just gets irritated. So if down the line you ever your elbows start to flare up, switch to a thumbs around grip right away. Give it 3 workouts before you tell me that you hate it. And it'll get rid of that tendon. It'll prevent that tendonitis from turning into a real problem. So other than that, your squat, and that's not even a problem yet, but just trying to offer some advice since your squat looks so damn good. So thank you for submitting, everybody who's watching this. This is a great squat. It's a good example. All right, we'll move on. We got a question about body weight. All right, we're going to come back to the Q&A questions at the end. So we'll move on. Vegan lifter. Oh boy. Okay. Hope you can fix my jacked up wrists when doing squats. Weight is my 3rd set, 195 for 3 sets of 3. Wrists have been fine, but as the weight gets up there, my wrists are bothering me. Hoping I can fix them before I do 195 by 5 by 3 on Saturday. 64 years old, 170 pounds, 5'11". Put on 12 pounds since reading your book. So wow, okay. Was you like 58 pounds or 158 pounds before that? It's good. 170, 5'11". We're getting somewhere. 193 on the squat, 205 on the deadlift. Bench is 167.5. Okay, great. Let's take a look. Okay. Kill the music. Got a big no excuses. Okay, here we go. So let's take a look at some of these. All right. So we'll just watch a couple reps and then we'll dive in here. Let's see. It's a set of 3, I think. Okay, great. So the wrist, well, we're going to start at the bottom here. So it's kind of hard to tell from the angle about bar placement on your back because the camera's very low, but it does look like you've definitely got it in the low bar position. My guess is it's correct. Let me see if I can go down to the bottom and no, it looks like you got it in the right place. All right, we got a lot to talk about here. So first of all, let's dive in with your stance. All right, so if you look at your stance here, your toes are basically pointed straight ahead. And we want your toes out about 30 to 40 degrees. Okay, so I think your stance width is good. You want it about shoulder width. So maybe what I would probably have you do is leave your toes where they are and rotate your heels in so that your feet are pointed out, your toes are pointed out at more of an angle. Okay, so you'll just leave your toe right here and rotate your heels in a little bit like that. So they go from here to here. Okay. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow you to push your knees out harder, right? So if we turn the toes out, the knees are able to go out wider. And that's the key to getting depth, because if you don't push your knees out hard enough, that means your thighs are going to block your hips on the way down and you're never going to hit depth, because you're going to feel like as you get closer to the bottom, the thigh is going to block the hip and you're going to feel like, well, I can't go any lower than this. And then what's going to happen is you're going to start trying to lean over more, which is not the right move. In order for those hips to drop down low enough and to stretch out the adductor muscles in your groin, your knees have to get out real hard. So if we pause this at the bottom and we just look at your knee position, yeah, so this is exactly what I'm talking about, where you're getting down there. I mean, your depth looks pretty good, but your knees are pointed like straight ahead and you're super leaned over. Okay. Now I'd rather have your torso a little bit more upright and your hips a little bit lower. So if you've got sort of this back angle right here, I'd like to see more of like that. Okay. And the way that you're going to do that is that you don't have to think about doing that. It'll happen naturally if you get your stance right. Additionally, you can see that your legs, those are terrible lines, but you can see that your knees are kind of caving inward, especially over here on this one. So the knees are buckling in. That's how you're getting depth, is you're allowing your knees to collapse inward and slacking the adductor muscles, your groin muscles, because that's what tightens up. If you shove your knees out and squat all the way down, those adductors tighten up. And that's where we get the stretch reflex. You're not going to get much of a stretch reflex here because as you're going down, you're letting the knees cave in like this, which lets you go lower. You can certainly get deeper, but it's not the way we want you to get deeper, because by slacking the adductors, you take them out of the lift, which means you're not going to get a stretch reflex or that bounce out of the bottom. And with the adductors not involved, you're using less muscle mass, which means you're not going to be able to lift as much weight. So what we want out of the bottom is the opposite of this. We want knees out real hard. Okay. So you're going to have to turn your toes out a little bit and jack it. Like if I could walk up to you, and I say this every week, but if I could walk up to you in this position and put my hands inside your knees and pull your knees apart, if they move at all, this is wrong. You should be shoving them out so hard that if I came and did that, I'd be like, nope, he's got his knees out too hard. Let me see if I can find I have like a couple pictures over here of, let's see if we can find the guy that I'm looking for. And I'll show you like a good knee position there we go. Okay. Here, that. You see that? Oh, let me make that bigger. Oh, I got my thing on. That, right? Look at that guy. Okay. That's what we want at the bottom. Knees out hard. Look at his heels. Heels are turned in, toes are pointed out, knees are jacked out real hard, and his hips are dropping through in here, right? Because he shoved his knees out so hard. Now the groin muscles, these adductors in here, are stretched nice and tight, right? And he's gonna get a real good bounce out of the bottom. So that's the position that I wanna see in your bottom, right? If you look at the difference between this position and your position, you're just collapsed in like that. So in order to fix this, you're gonna have to take some weight off the bar because those adductor muscles need to catch up. And by not insisting that those knees stay out, you've been continuing to get stronger in other places, right? All the other muscles have gotten stronger, the adductors haven't. And so if you're gonna do this correctly, you need to go back in weight and you need to let them catch up. And it doesn't take very long, but you're gonna have to take a significant amount of weight off the bar. I mean, you know, maybe 10%, maybe 20%, and you're gonna have to drill that position. And so one of the things I always recommend is pause squats. And I'll just recap this real quick. With the empty bar, no weight, you're gonna set your stance right. You're gonna go down to the bottom, knees shoved out, and you're gonna count to 3. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. In those 3 seconds, you're gonna ask yourself, is my weight balanced over the middle of my foot, or am I on my toes or my heels? Are my knees out as wide as they could be, or could I shove them out more? Right? So if you go down to the bottom and you realize you could push your knees out more, do that. Same thing with if you go down and you're not on the middle of your foot, you're on your toes, or you notice you're on your heels. You're gonna fix that in those 3 seconds. You're gonna check your knees. And is my chest up? That's the third one. I was blanking on that one. So you're asking yourself, is my weight balanced over on the middle of my foot? Are my knees out as wide as they could be? And is my chest arched up? Or did I let it collapse and round on the way down? Those are the common problems that people experience with the squat, right? They let their chest go, so they're hunched over, right? They let their knees cave in, and their weight is either on their toes or their heels. So in those 3 seconds, if you have one of those issues or multiple issues, fix them, feel it. So if you're on your toes, rock back on your heels. If your knees are caved in, shove your knees out. If your chest is rounded, arch it, and then feel it for a second. Okay, this is what it feels like when it's correct, and then come back up. And then from that point on, every rep that you do for these pause squats, it's like a little game you're trying to play with yourself. Can I go directly to that perfect bottom position and not have to adjust everything or anything? So I'm just sitting down there for 3 seconds and just waiting because everything is in the right position, and then come back up, right? So empty bar, no weight, go down there and just get comfortable, get the feel for the correct bottom position, balance, count to 3, come back up. And then you can try some very light weight. Maybe your first warm-up set, you can pause. I still do pause squats every workout just to remind myself what the bottom position feels like. So you need to work with that and then start adding weight and pay attention to where that breaks down, right? So if you can keep your knees out with 95 pounds, but you can't with 135, then back the weight off and insist that you don't go up in weight until you have corrected these issues. So you're gonna have to take a couple steps back, but in the long run, you'll be lifting way more efficiently, using more muscle mass, and you're gonna hit a wall with this form, as you know. So you might be able to do this for another month, but eventually this technique is gonna limit how high you can take this. So you have to go back now. I know it sucks to take weight off the bar, but you have to go back, fix these problems so that you can break through the plateau and keep going later down the road, okay? Now, in terms of wrist pain, I know you said your wrists are killing you. That's a tricky one. So I noticed it looks like you're using a thumbs around grip, which is great. I would recommend that. you're in your 60s, stuff's going to hurt. What I tell guys, with a thumbs around grip, you have to play around with it a little bit. You have to experiment with where you hold the weight on your back. So with the thumbs on top grip, all the weight sits on your back. With the thumbs around grip, the weight, we take more load in the hands, like I was just talking about in the last video, or in the wrist. So you have to play around with it, with the ratio of how much weight sits on your shoulders and how much weight you allow to sit in your wrists. And so you need to mess around with grip width, if you can pull your hands in a little closer, it bunches up the muscle mass on your back. And so more of the weight can be on your traps and posterior deltoids and less in your wrists. But there's no real way for me to tell you how to do it. You just have to mess around with different grip widths until keep the focus on how do I support as much weight as possible on my back and as little as possible in my wrists. And you just have to mess with it until you find like a comfortable spot. So let me just take a look at, make sure I got all your questions here. All the other issues that are happening in your squat are a byproduct of the knees caving in thing. So the fact that you're kicking your head back at the bottom of every rep to prevent the bar from rolling over your head is because of the knee. It's all stemming from that incorrect bottom position. So once we get your knees out, turn your heels in, get your knees out harder, the rest of this is going to clean up. It's very likely going to clean up. So what I want you to do is I don't want to overload you. I want you to work with some pause squats, get that bottom position dialed in, and then post another video. It should be with lighter weight. If you post another video with 195, I'm going to be like, maybe it'll look great, but take weight off the bar, post another video next week or two, and let's see if we can get this bottom position dialed in before we address any other issues. Because I have a feeling if we fix that, a lot of the other stuff's going to go away. So thank you for submitting. I hope this is helpful. And I look forward to seeing the updated version. Good luck. We'll see you soon. Okay. Moving on. On Form Check Friday 2 weeks ago, you kindly reviewed my squat, suggested I should widen the stance, set the bar lower on the back, set the knees forward sooner to reduce knee slide at the bottom, and you didn't have enough hip drive. Okay, I tried to put that into practice, the knees being the hardest bit. Yes, knee slide is a very difficult thing to fix. I think this set of 5, my knees still go forward on 1 and 2, blah, blah, blah. Okay. All right, let's take a look and see what we're dealing with. Can I increase this, or is it gonna be weird? Nope, it's gonna be weird. Okay. So, oh yeah, I remember you. Stance looks good. Okay, pretty good descent there. No hip drive, okay? Yeah, there's no hip drive on these still. Oh, damn, I spoke too soon. All right, good, we got a little pop in that one. Let's see if you can keep it up. Yes, okay. So first 2, you're kind of figuring it out, realizing you didn't have enough hip drive, and then you fixed it. No hip drive on that one. Head back, lifting the chest. It's your last rep. Everything goes to hell on the last rep. Okay, let's take another look and see what we can do here, if we can clean this up even more. So bar position looks good. Wrists look pretty good. The left wrist looks like you probably need to turn it a little more. It looks like kind of like this. So, I mean, this is a minor thing. Just put your hand on the bar, turn it like that, and then squeeze. Okay, so when you line it up like this, instead of grabbing like this, you turn it like this, and then you put your fingertips into it. All right, and that'll just take some pressure off your wrist. By the way, this is like a starting strength coach joke or like meme on the internet where people Or like, you gotta have like 10,000 things wrong with this squat, and the starting strength coach will just be bitching about his wrist. So I'm now officially a meme or joke. Okay, but while we're working from the top down, why not fix it? So we know that the first 2 reps, we don't have any hip drive. Then we start getting more hip drive. Let me see if I can see your knees. Yeah, okay, so knees are still cruising forward the whole way down. Good hip drive on that one. Head positions down. Like, they start to get a lot better. So depth is great. That looked great on the way up. And I think this is the one where you start to kick your head back. Yeah. Okay. So just know that you do that. Like, you have a tick where on your last rep, you just throw your head back and remind yourself to avoid that. Not the end of the world. In terms of the knee slide. So part of the issue is that you're thinking about it too much, which I know you have to think about it, but you're being too slow and methodical with it. So it's not a gradual unlocking and slow push of the knees forward. It's like you like shove them forward right away. Okay? So you don't just slowly unlock them and then get to the point where you're like, okay, maybe I should stop here. You're never going to find the position that way. They'll just keep going forward the whole way down. Instead, what you need to do is lean over and just shove them as far forward as they'll go. So you lean over at the waist and you shove your knees as far forward as they'll move, right? I was just talking to another client about this week who's having the same issue. And I said, it will feel like you're getting on your toes a little bit, especially if you try this with no weight and you just are practicing. It'll feel like your weight is shifting to the balls of your feet as you jack your knees out right away. Okay? But as soon as they're done, as soon as they reach their destination, the whole thing shifts to, okay, now the knees are in the right place, so I can spend the rest of the rep reaching back with my hips. Okay? So knees go forward right, like, all right, I'm going to have to get up and show you this. So let me see if I can, hey now. All right, I got a new camera, so this is cool. All right, so let me see if I can demo this for you. So if you watch my knees, right? What you're doing is just kind of gradually sliding them forward like this all the way down, okay? What I want you to shoot them forward right away. So you're just like this, boom. Lean over, boom, right away. That's it, okay? I'm gonna hit this chair if I. So I'm here, boom. And I feel pressure on the balls of my feet when I do this. It's not balanced. I'm a little bit on my toes. But now, this is as far forward as my knees can go. Okay, so from this point on, they're set. All I have to do is reach back with my hips. And you'll notice if you watch my knee, they're not moving forward at all. Okay, I reach all the way down to the bottom here, and then I sit back. Okay, so the first part of the squat, lean over, shove your knees forward and out. Boom. Now they're set. Now they can't move any more forward because I already put them where they needed to go. And then I just reach back with my hips. Okay. Versus slowly kind of looking, and then they're just going to keep moving forward all the way down. Okay. Knees forward, reach back. And you can, with the empty bar, you can practice that. You can practice making it 2 motions like that. Once you get weight on it, obviously we want to smooth it out. But it may help in the beginning to think, but make it aggressive. Pop them out and then reach back. And then over time, as you put weight on it, you'll blur those 2 separate parts of like knees out, hips back, into like one smooth motion. So I think that's see, now I'm getting tired. So that's the idea is you're just trying to overthink it, and you need to do it. Sometimes when you do things a little faster, it doesn't give you an opportunity to overthink them. Like trying to set up for a deadlift. If you sit down there and mess around for a long time, then more things can go wrong. If you speed it up a little bit, it's like you just do it right. That's one of the reasons yelling works so well when we're coaching is it just stops people from thinking, and they just do it. And then most of the time your body kind of knows how to do it. So that's what I would work on. The rest of it, know that in the first couple reps, you don't hip drive that much. Part of the reason for that is because of the knee thing. So if you don't finish reaching back with the hips and get that bounce, it's the cue to drive your hips up and, use that hip drive to get back up. It's not really there because you didn't actually get to the bottom correctly. So work on the knee thing. Just by the time you're halfway down, you shouldn't have to think about your knees anymore. All your focus should be on reaching back with the hips and getting a good stretch in the groin so that you can fire up and use the hip drive and the bounce and the stretch reflex. Okay, so work on that. Do the little drill I did. Practice the same thing with a bar and then start adding weight. Over time, you'll get the hang of it. One thing that might help you is, I don't know if you can do it with this squat rack, but if you can find maybe like sometimes they have a plyo box or like a stool or something. You want something at the gym that's maybe about 12 to 13 inches high, and you can put it behind you and do like a box squat, but don't sit on it. You want to just use it as a little tactile cue for where the bottom is. So if you put a little stool down there and you just think about having to reach back and tap it, right? Don't sit on it. Just all you want to do is touch it and then come back up. And so you have to stay tight because I don't want you to unload all your weight onto the box. But just having an object back there with a little bit of that tactile feedback cleans up this movement pattern for a lot of people pretty quickly. Just having to think about touching your butt to that stool kind of puts all these pieces together without, especially for guys who have a tendency to overthink, which I think you might be doing. So try that if you can find one. You can also strap like a rubber band around about 12 to 13 inches high and then just try and tap it. But there's some options for that. Otherwise, everything looks good, and we'll just get it dialed in. Let me make sure I didn't leave out any of your questions. Yeah, just more aggressive with the knees. That's pretty much it. Okay, onward. Miguel, thanks for the form check. Bench press triple. A good bench press. Let's see. Okay. Get that. Oh, that is. Oh, this is gonna piss me off. Okay. Oh, spotters. Okay. So let's talk about this spotter, because you guys need to know about this if you don't already. First of all, I don't know if this is a gym policy. Some gyms are stupid with their policies and and they require you to put collars on the bar when you bench press. I've said this before. We never collar the bench press. Okay, you have a spotter, that's okay, but you don't want to get in the habit of putting collars on the bar when you bench press, because if that bar comes down on your neck and you're alone for some reason, or you didn't set the safeties correctly, you just forgot, and you get that bar on your neck and you collared it, you can't slide the plates off. Worst case scenario, if there's no collars on the bar, you roll to one side, the plates slide off, you roll to the other side, the plates slide off, you make a big mess. Who cares? You survive. So it's not that I think you're unsafe. You got a bunch of people around you in the gym. If something went wrong, they could get the bar off of you. I just don't want anybody to get in the habit of using collars on the bar for that one time that you're traveling to some weird gym and you're in there by yourself at a hotel or God knows what, and you just forget to collar them, and you just forget and you put collars on and you end up in a bad situation. Okay, done ranting about that. Now, the spotter here, when we'll get to your technique, I'm not just going to rail on your spotter. The job of the spotter in the bench press is to help the lifter with this moment arm right here. So from the bench, so he's going to start with the bench press out here, but the bar starts back here. So he's got this distance that he's got to overcome, right, to get it out of the rack. That is the job of the spotter, is to help the lifter clear that distance, because when you're working with really heavy weight, that can sap a lot of your energy. So a spotter helps you get it into position And then once the lifter has the weight over their shoulder joint in position, they get the hell out of the way, okay? Because the lifter should be looking up at the ceiling and finding a reference point against the ceiling against which he's going to determine his bar path. So you want to find a spot on the ceiling, stare at it, notice where the bar is in relation to that spot, and then as you come down, you're trying to drive the bar right back to that same place every time, using the reference against the ceiling as the gauge of whether or not you're doing that correctly. But now you got this guy's face in front of you because he's standing over you and he wants to be involved and help you, and it's all you, bro, whatever. And so you got some dude's face in your face while you're trying to focus and do the lift correctly. So if you are ever spotting someone, you're going to wait till they'll mess around, they'll wait, and then they'll give you some kind of signal that they're ready. Okay, maybe they'll count. A lot of times you just take a big breath. When they're ready, you hand them the bar and then you step back. You don't walk away, you stay close. You're available if needed, but you are out of their line of sight. Your hands are not in their face, okay? And you watch the bar. You watch the bar speed. If that bar is moving up, no matter how slowly, you don't touch it, okay? And this, sometimes it moves very slowly. You don't touch it, because if a guy's been working for 3 months on towards a new bench press PR and it gets a little grindy and slows down and you get nervous and you take it, he doesn't get to count that rep. You just took his PR from him after doing all that work because you just got involved and you thought he was slowing down a little bit. You wanted to help him up. If anybody other than the lifter touches the bar, that you cannot count that lift. That lift belongs to the spotter, not the guy bench pressing. So you keep your hands out of the way, and if that bar moves any direction other than up, you step in and you take it, or you help him get it up. So if it comes up and it starts to go towards the feet, grab it. If it goes up, sticks, starts to go towards the face, grab it. If it goes up, sticks, starts to come back down, and you're sure it's coming back down, the lift is over. You take it and you both of you get it back to the rack. We're not forcing any reps out here with the help of someone else, okay? So that is your job. And at a commercial gym like this, you see it all the time. So you have to sit down with the guy who's going to spot you and just tell him, listen, man, here's the deal. You're going to help me take it out of the rack, and then you're going to get out of my way, stay close, be friendly about it. Obviously, I'm just bitter from having seen this stuff for too long, but and then I don't want you to help me at all unless the bar starts to go down, and then we're both going to rack it. We're not going to force out any reps. And you're going to say that, you're going to be very clear, and they're still going to do this stuff where their hands are in your face and just distracting you. So, all right, that's my rant on spotting. And let's actually do your form check. Okay, so what? Okay. This is good. We got a lot to talk about here. All right, so couple things. First of all, we'll talk about what we just talked about in the last video, or the last form check I did, which is resetting the start position. In fact, we've talked about this. No, that was the first TJ. This is 5 or 3 or however many reps you're doing in your set. They are individual reps, okay? It's not just bang through 3 reps as fast as you can. Each rep should be identical as you can make it, given the fact that you're getting tired. But that means between each rep, you take a moment and you reset the start position. So if the first rep you were locked out and you got your breath and you puffed your chest up and you took the time to get steady, and then you brought the bar down and locked it out, you do the same thing for the next rep. You lock your elbows out and you take a moment to go through your little mental checklist. All right, elbows are locked, eyes are in the right place, take a big breath, chest up, shoulders back, and then I'm gonna bring the elbows down and up. And then you lock out and you go through that again, because if you don't take the time to go through the startup or the setup for each rep, it's gonna get sloppy, which is exactly what's happening here. So you can sit at lockout with your joints locked for a while, and you need to get comfortable and not panic with a bar locked out over your chest. Okay, same thing in the squat. When you get to the top of the squat and your knees are locked out, you can rest there. You can take a moment. You're not with the joints locked, you're not really taxing your muscles that much. So you can sit there and take the time to get yourself back into the right start position before you, because if you just go from one squat right into the other, your back's going to be rounded. You're not going to be looking in the right place. Everything's going to be wrong. Okay. So same thing here. You have to take time to treat each rep as one individual rep. And so at the top, lock out, go through the checklist. You're set. Good. Do the next rep. Lock out. Chest up, shoulders back, big breath, down and up. Okay. Eyes, chest up, shoulders back, big breath, go. Okay. And it seems counterintuitive because you're thinking, well, if I just, I don't know how long I can hold the bar. It's really heavy. And if I just rush through these reps, then maybe I won't run out of energy. It's the complete wrong way to think about it, because every rep that you do with inefficiencies and slop costs you more. When the lift isn't efficient, it gasses you more. And I'm sure you've experienced this, especially on something like an overhead press, where you're doing it great, and then you rush maybe the second or third rep, and the bar kind of swings out in front of your face by mistake, but you still grind it up. You're done. You're toast. You're not going to get the next rep or the fifth rep because but if you had done it perfectly and kept it in line right over the shoulder joint, it costs you less energy to finish the movement correctly. Okay. So what's happening here is because you're rushing from one rep to the next, you're not resetting the start position, and things are just getting real sloppy. So watch your elbows when we go through this. Okay. So here, notice this is not bad. So I would want to see, we want at the bottom of the squat of the bench press, when the bar is on your chest, we want vertical forearms. So if I was standing at your feet looking at you, I want to see this, not this, not this, vertical. Okay. So in your case, your grip looks pretty good. I think you have the right grip. I just think that you need to tuck your elbows in just a little bit more. Okay. So just kind of tuck them in a little bit, bring this elbow that way a tiny bit. Okay. Now, more importantly, watch what happens as you drive. Watch this elbow as I hit play and you start to drive up. See it? See it shoot back like that? Right? So now you have, what happened? Oh no. Wait. I'll get it back. Okay. So we'll go through it again. Yeah, so watch that elbow as it comes down, and it's pretty tucked. Like, you've got a decent, it could be tucked in a little bit more, but as you start to push back up, your elbows are flaring out to the sides, and I'll tell you why that's a problem. And then you go right back into the next rep, and then right back into the next rep. So your chest is collapsed. You're trying to set your chest up as you're bringing the bar down instead of doing that beforehand. So as you're lowering the bar, right, you're trying to arch your back and get that chest up rather than setting the chest up and then smoothly. The only thing that you want moving in the bench press is your elbows. Everything else should be absolutely locked in and stationary. Your legs actually look great. I like where your legs are. But you take a breath, chest up, shoulders back, right? And then all I'm doing is moving the elbows up and down, okay? That's how you create an efficient, stable rep. If as you come down, you're trying to arch your back, you've got all this shit moving around, your elbows are, the second rep, you're not tucking your elbows in at all, they're just coming down. And the problem with that is, there's a lot going on here, I'm sorry, I'm like amped up. Your spotter got me fired up. The problem with this position, so that the bench press is notorious for jacking up guys' shoulders, right? I've had 3 shoulder surgeries, but one of them was from dips. The other one I think was from bench pressing. It was either bench pressing or dips. But you can impinge your rotator cuff tendon with a improperly performed bench press. You can't on an overhead press. That's why overhead presses are great. You cannot impinge the rotator cuff because the scapula, whatever, the scapula move out of the way. But in the bench press, the scapula are kind of pinned down to the bench. So when you bring if you are here, and this is the tricky part of the bench, because from a mechanical or from a physics perspective, moving the bar directly over the shoulder joint would be the most efficient way to move the lift, right? This is the balance point. We want to move the bar directly over the balance point, but we can't. And the reason we can't is because of our anatomy, right? Because if I touch here, right in line with the shoulder joint, my elbows are out like this, okay? Let me make myself a little bit bigger so I can demo this. Okay, so while this would be the most efficient way to move the bar because it's directly in line with my shoulder joint, I can't do that because of my anatomy, right? Because if I lift my elbows up like this, I'm smashing my rotator cuff tendon. There's a little space in here where the rotator cuff tendon kind of inserts through the head of the humerus, or in between the head of the humerus and the shoulder joint, right? So there's a little gap in there. As I move my elbow up like this, I trap that rotator cuff tendon, right? I impinge that rotator cuff tendon. That gap goes away. And if I just do a whole bunch of reps like this and I have like a little bone spur or calcium deposit or something, I'm going to saw a hole in that rotator cuff and I'm going to have surgery. If I drop my elbows down to here, that little space in the shoulder joint opens up. And so I'm not impinging that rotator cuff tendon, and I can work down here all day and not screw with my rotator cuff. Okay. So that's why, even though it would be more efficient to press like this, we can't do it if we want to bench press for the remainder of our career, because we're going to jack up our shoulders. So we make a compromise and we have to bring the elbows down like this, and then the bar kind of moves, it locks out here, but it touches here. It kind of goes like this. It's fine. It's a compromise we make for bench pressing, and it keeps us healthy. And so it's very important that as you bring your elbows down, you don't let them flare out as you push up. It's very common. People do this all the time. They have a pretty good tuck on the way down, and then they flare it out like this on the way up, and it's doing that. And so what you're doing is you're going to piss off some people can get away with murder, but we don't want to risk it. Those elbows should be tucked all the way up, all the way down, so that we're not messing with that. We're not going to land you in the orthopedic surgeon's office. So that's another reason that you need to slow this whole thing down, because it's just chaos. It's like none of this is. So there they go out, and then you don't even bother to reset. And now, like, you had a pretty good tuck on the first rep because you took a little bit of time to get set. And then once you just went right into the next rep and the next rep, and you don't even have your breath at the right time, it's just getting worse, and you're going to end up in trouble. So what I want you to do is treat each rep, take the time to reset each rep. So lock out, breathe, chest up, shoulders back, make sure your legs are engaged, elbows come down, right? Lock it out. And then fix everything that collapsed, right? Because when you finish the push, your scapula are going to come out, your chest is going to not be as up as it could be, right? Your back's going to lose the extension. So before you go, fix it, right? Chest up, shoulders back, down. From the side, you're here, right? You finish, take a breath, chest up, shoulders back, and then tuck the elbows. Finish, chest up, shoulders back. All right, you get the idea. Take time between each rep. It will pay off in spades in terms of efficiency. And the more efficiently you do each rep, the more gas you're going to have in the tank. Like if you had done each one of these reps perfectly with no slop, no deviation in bar path, right? You might have got a set of 5. So practice that, okay? And find a new spotter or lecture the one that you have if you know that guy. All right, moving on. Here we go. Okay, I think we got one more and then some questions, and then we'll wrap it up. I've only recently added deadlifts to my workout. I feel like my form is not good yet. Back definitely rounds. I get cramps in the outer pecs. Not every set. That can happen. Sometimes you get some weird pec cramps with deadlifts. Okay, here we go. Okay, so we're doing, all right, this is one of those things where I can't pause it. Okay, so first of all, well, let's just watch the set and then I'll make comments. I need some water anyway, after yelling about spotters and... Oh, we just did 2 reps. Okay, so here's the deal. First of all, that's what we call a touch and go deadlift. And this ties perfectly into the last form check. You need to take the time to reset the start position for each rep. And if you do a touch and go deadlift where you're just tapping the bar off the ground, that means while you may have set up the first rep, every rep after that, you're not taking time to retighten things that got loose, right? You're not setting your back again. You're not squeezing your chest up. You're not making sure you got the bar in the right place over the middle of the foot. You're not resetting the hip height. You're not resetting your eye gaze. All of those things need to be addressed before each rep. So that's why you set the bar completely down. You don't take your hands off it. You set the bar completely down and then you reset the start position. Okay? So with regard to your start position, we got to fix a few things. Let me see if this loops. Okay, so right now the bar is too far in front of the middle of your foot. Okay, so it's too far away from your shin. So you want 1 inch. When you look down at the bar, you should see 1 inch between your shins or your pants and the bar. Okay, that bar should be right over the knot in your shoelaces. Get some weightlifting shoes. So I'm being very short with you right here in terms of my advice because we've covered all of these things today already. So you might want to go back and watch the other deadlift form checks because some of this is going to apply to you. So the bar is, this is the middle of your foot. The bar's here. You need the bar right over the middle of your foot, which means it'll be right over the knot in your shoelaces, 1 inch away from your shins. When you reach down and grab the bar, you are not going to bend your knees. You're going to keep your knees as straight as possible. Okay. So you're not going to do, oh, okay. So you started to do it there, right? But you bent your knees before you got your hands on the bar. So what you want to do is the opposite of that. Keep your knees locked, reach down and grab the bar with your knees as straight as you can keep them. Sometimes guys aren't flexible. You have to bend them a little bit. That's fine. So if you have to bend your knees a little bit, that's okay, but keep them as straight as possible, grab the bar, and then with your hands on the bar, finish bending the knees until the shins touch, because that tells you exactly where your hips need to be, okay? So you're doing this a little bit backwards. You've got some weight on your toes right here. In your case, your hips are gonna end up a little higher than this, is my guess. And because we got definitely because the bar is out in front of the middle of your foot. So if you pushed your butt back up in the air like that, and then rolled the bar back to your shins, right? You're going to end up with a back angle that's more, that wasn't it. You're going to end up with a back angle that's kind of, Jesus, this drawing tool. Yeah, I mean, I'm just drawing your back right now. Oh, I almost had it. Okay. That's a little bit more horizontal. Okay, than where you are. Just forget the drawing. It didn't work that well. But right now your back angle is a little too vertical. When you and the bar's in front of the middle of your foot, that's why. So if you get the bar back over the middle of your foot, your hips up a little higher, your back angle will become more horizontal. That's what we want. There, you should, if you haven't seen, and I don't know what your background is exactly, but if you haven't watched, go to the Starting Strength YouTube channel. There is a video called like Learn How to Deadlift, and it just walks you through the 5 steps. It's just 5 simple steps to set up the perfect deadlift every time. Okay, and I just kind of walked you through some of them, but you need to watch that video because your start position is wrong, and everything is just going to stem from that. Okay, and then the same thing, once you go through the 5 steps to create the perfect position for your first deadlift, when you set the bar down, you keep your hands on the bar and then you go through most of those steps again to get yourself right back in the correct place, okay? And then we're gonna pull a set of 5 with equal attention devoted to setting up each rep. Don't just bounce the bar and go, because every rep after that is gonna be wrong. Okay, so watch that video and clean it up, and then let's come back and post a set of 5 And after you've seen it, we'll see if we have to dial anything else in, okay? I'll try and link to it, but I never remember to link at the end of these videos when I'm done editing them. So just go to the Start Your Strength YouTube channel and type in, how to deadlift, and it'll walk you through it. Okay, good. So I think we got through all the form checks. Awesome. We're already over an hour, so I'm going to skip the celebrity form check this week just because it's going to take forever. And I'm going to answer your questions real quick. So, body weight. Well, let me see if I can get the bottom one first. Q&A. Is there any alternative to lateral raises? Really struggle to get in with this without aggravating my shoulders. Okay, so lateral raises are, in my opinion, essential for developing your shoulders. Overhead presses do an okay job, but it wasn't until I started adding dumbbell lateral raises that my shoulders started to look better, in my opinion. So they're essential, but I do know what you mean that they piss your shoulders off. So there's a couple things to consider. First of all, you need to make sure that you warm them up. So if you just walk over, and second of all, lateral raises don't need to be done with heavy weight. I mean, I'm 230 pounds. I lateral raise with like 35s. And for a long time, I just did 15s and 20s. It's not about lifting the heaviest weight you can. It's about muscle growth. That's why it's an assistance exercise, not like a main lift. So it's more important that you do the lift, that you do the exercise perfectly and you target the muscle that you're trying to hit. This is the difference between, focusing on like strength training, powerlifting movements, and bodybuilding stuff. This is about hitting the correct muscle, because it's very easy to do an assistance exercise and hit muscles that you don't want to incorporate. So you can do a lateral raise in a way where you're not really working your side delts at all. You're using other muscles to get more weight up. So we want to feel the contraction in the deltoid. So make sure that you're warming up. Make sure you're using weights that are appropriate so that you're not going too heavy, and then make sure that you're warming up a little bit. You're gonna have to do, even with any small joint thing like curls, triceps extensions, anything, press downs. You always want to warm up the joint, because if you just jump right into your work set weight, you're gonna feel it. Your joints are gonna feel pretty old and creaky for most people. That's my experience. So this happened to me the other day. I tried to jump right into lateral raises because I just felt like I had warmed up enough, and my shoulders felt like they had arthritis. So do a couple warm-up sets, lightweight, get the motion down, and then also make sure that you're doing the movement correctly. So you're gonna bring your elbows, right? It's like you're pushing your arms out to the sides, but the dumbbells, you're not gonna go straight out to the side, right? You're gonna go a little bit. Do I have a video of me doing this? Maybe I can. Oh, I do. Let's see. Hey. Uh-oh. There's like volume on this. So yeah, here's me doing some lateral raises. And I'm not taking them up super high that I'm impinging my shoulders, right? You're just kind of going to parallel, right? So the weights are kind of perpendicular with the floor. I'm using a little bit of momentum. I feel like rocking forward a little bit and then coming back up, as long as it's consistent, gives me I can feel it a little bit better than just trying to like start perfectly still. And that's the thing with assistance exercises. There's some wiggle room in here. So if you're trying to go way up, you might piss the shoulders off a lot. So you just want to head to, right about there. Elbow and wrist are sort of at the same height. And then you can't see it from this angle. This is a great thing on my face. You can't see it from this angle, but you want to take you want to be in the scapular plane when you're doing lateral raises, which is here. Okay. So out to the side, front, sagittal plane, you can see the scapular plane is, because that little green dot or line is the scapula. So you're not coming straight out to the side. You're kind of coming here, like a little bit, maybe, I mean, it looks like 45 degrees right there. So 45 degrees with the dumbbells, and then not, don't impinge your tendons or anything by trying to take the elbows up too high. You just want sort of perpendicular with the ground. Make sure you warm up. If for some reason they piss your shoulders off every time, you can try doing cables, right? Like you could do a cable lateral raise. Maybe that feels better. And if they just aggravate your shoulders for some reason that we can't figure out, you don't need to do them. They're not essential. They're not like squats and deadlifts. So you can just scrap them and you'll be okay. There's some other, you could do some rear delt work, like reverse flies or something like that, but play around with it, try warming up, see if your reps look like my reps in the video I just showed you. And if they don't, try and make them look like my reps and see if they still hurt. Okay. And again, lightweight. I mean, you don't have to go heavy to get the type of hypertrophy that we want. It's more about the form and hitting the muscles we're actually trying to hit instead of trying to move heavy weight and having other muscles compensate. Okay. And then the last question was a cool one. So, and I did a little bit of research, or I did a little work behind the scenes for this one. And it was about body composition. And I get this question all the time. Okay, Paul, I'm currently at 202 to 204 pounds, 5'8", 29 years old. Will cutting a bit stall out my progress, or would it be better to maintain this body weight and keep the lifts going up? I want to keep the lifts driving, but don't want to get fatter. Okay, this is, I probably field this question like every week. And it's tricky, right? 5'8", 202, 204, that's not a bad body weight, right? You're not skinny. I don't know what your body fat percentage is, but maybe you're a little fluffy if you don't want to get fatter. And so you have a choice. You're 29 years old, right? So you have a choice, and that is you could cut from where you are right now. You could try and go down to 10%, or you could continue focusing on adding more muscle mass, driving the PRs up, and then cut later. And so what should you do? So I broke it down kind of like the way I did in the book, just to show you what your options are. Okay. So let's go through this. So right now I wonder if I can make this bigger. Ooh, cool. Okay. So right now you are 204 pounds, and I'm just guessing. I mean, I could be totally wrong with this body composition, but you'll understand where I'm going here. So let me move me over there. Okay. So let's say you're 20% body fat, right? That means you have 164 pounds of muscle and 40 pounds of fat, right? Now, if we jump down to this row right here, okay? If at 204 you decide to cut at 10%, assuming you don't lose any muscle, which, just for the sake of this example, we'll say you don't lose any muscle. At 10% body fat, you'd end up weighing 182 pounds. 182 at 5'8", what were your lifts? Let me check. What were your numbers? 340 on the squat. Deadlift is 405 for double. Okay, so you got some muscle. So if you cut down to 10%, you end up at 182. Assuming my math's right here, guys. I mean, I think I got it right, but if not, someone will correct me. So you're 182, 5'8", and you're ripped. That might look pretty good. Now, the alternative would be to keep going. So this is the top chart here. So let's say 204, 20% body fat. Let's say we went to 225. So we put on 21 pounds of muscle. And we're just going to assume, based on that for every new pound, 70% is muscle, 30% is fat. One of the guys who's on here showed me his DEXA. He just gained 5 pounds, and he gained, I forget how much he gained, but it was 70-30. It was pretty close to 70-30. So it's possible. And he's not, a teenager. So we'll just say for this example, which means of the 21 pounds, 15 is going to be muscle, 6 is going to be fat. So at 225, you end up at 179 pounds of muscle, 46 pounds of fat, and that actually is still 20% body fat. In other words, because of the addition of we don't just influence body composition by losing fat, we can influence it by gaining muscle. So you gain 21 pounds, and you're still the same body composition. So you didn't really get fatter, is my point. So you have to think about where you are right now. And then just to jump down to the other thing or below, if you went to 225 at 20% body fat and then cut down to 10% body fat, you would weigh 199, 200 pounds, right? So at 10% with a hell of a lot more muscle mass. So you have to decide, how uncomfortable are you with your current body composition? Do you really feel like you're fat and it's bothering you and you want to cut? Then cut. No problem with that. And you can bulk back up later. You're 29, you got time. You can do this, if you're like, I'm really enjoying the lifting, I'm liking the PRs, I want to ride this out as long as I can. I feel maybe a little fluffy, but it's not that bad, and I could probably keep going for a couple more months. Then I would try and keep going and maybe get to 225. Because when you cut to 10% from 225, you're going to look even better than you would look at 182. You're going to look even more jacked. Okay? So these are just options. It's really the client I was talking to earlier this week. I was kind of making the same case, and he's like, you know what? I need to cut. Like, I just feel it. I just want to, and I'll do it quickly, and then I'll go back up. And that's fine. There's no right way to do this. 29, I don't know how long you've been lifting. Maybe you told me. Long enough to pull 405 and squat 340. So, you could ride it out longer, or you could cut and then go back up. And either way, it's whatever works for you. And again, you might be 15% body fat right now, and I have no idea what I'm talking about. I just guessed to illustrate this point. So I hope that helps. Just gives you some options and things to consider. And let us know what you do. Take some before and after photos. We need some case studies on guys who, have been successful, and that'd be great. So thank you for submitting. This was a fun exercise, something we don't normally talk about. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. We're at almost an hour and a half, which is the longest episode I've ever done. We didn't even get to do the celebrity form check, but that's okay. Thank you guys for coming through. I was going to be sitting here just staring at the wall without these form checks to do. So I appreciate you all as always. I hope this has been useful. Leave some comments. Tell your friends to submit their form check videos. Let's keep this thing going. And I am excited to see updates and meet new people on the channel next week. So thanks, guys. See you soon.